The purpose of this video is to discuss and describe and demonstrate how we utilize biosecurity and hygiene in the semen collection process. So first, let's discuss a little bit about the difference between biosecurity and hygiene. So biosecurity is really measures that we take to prevent an animal from becoming infected by a virus. So a good example here in our recent history has been in 2013 and 14, the PED virus came into the United States and infected pig herds. With that came an increase of the awareness and the need for increased biosecurity. So some of those measures were things like showering before we enter facilities, changing our clothes, but biosecurity also includes measures to control rodent populations, as well as things like monitoring feed for contamination. Sometimes when a boar is sick with a virus, that virus will actually be transmitted into the semen and then be able to infect a sow or transfer that virus to a sow through the breeding process. So a good example of a virus that can actually get in the semen to infect sows is the PRRS virus. That's why it's recommended that we test semen and boars at the stud for PRRS. Other viruses actually cannot enter into the semen in the boar. However, through the process of collecting semen and packaging semen, we are able to contaminate that semen sample so that it can become a vector to transport that virus and infect other animals. So this is where the practices of hygiene come into play in the semen collection process. So hygiene is really practices that we do or take on to reduce the risk of contamination with a virus or bacteria or hair and dirt and things that can carry viruses and bacteria. Some bacteria in semen samples are considered normal, so that's why most commercial semen extenders have some sort of an antibiotic in their chemical makeup. Without hygiene during the semen collection process, however, sometimes that bacteria actually can become extreme in the semen sample. And that can actually reduce the fertility of the sperm in the semen sample, as well as pass on infections into the female's reproductive tract. So aside from environmental contamination of the semen samples, the boar's reproductive tract can also serve as a method for contaminating or providing some bacteria to the semen sample. We'll see here in a few minutes that the pre-sperm fraction, which is basically some clear fluid that comes out at the very beginning of ejaculation, can actually be fairly high in bacterial content and also contain some urine. So that's the reason that sample is not traditionally included in the collection mug during the collection process. Also, the gel fraction has been shown to have some high levels of bacteria and very low levels of sperm, so we typically filter that out during the collection process. So this video is going to demonstrate what is called the two-glove semen collection technique. We'll stop at various points during the process to describe where the importance of hygiene will really come into play in the process. So let's head into the barn and start taking a look. The first thing the collection technician should do is wash their hands with soap and water. Some boar studs are using alcohol-based hand sanitizers in place of washing your hands. Either one should be acceptable prior to the collection process. While the boar is in the warm-up pen, the technician should get prepared for the collection. A semen collection device should be prepared with disposable products. There are a multitude of different collection devices designed to maintain the temperature of the semen through the collection process. The outer thermos can be reused, but they should be cleaned regularly to remove fecal material, dirt, and excess semen. It is best for all other pieces of the collection device to be disposable. Therefore, a plastic bag and filter which come in contact with the semen sample should be disposable and clean. There are many different kinds of gloves available. Latex is considered spermicidal and should be avoided. Also, any gloves labeled powdered should be avoided for semen collection. Polyethylene gloves are typically considered safe for semen collection. However, they tend to be fairly slippery and can be hard to get a good grip on the penis during collection. Vinyl and nitrile are what are most commonly used and allow for a good grip on the penis during the collection process. However, it should be remembered that sperm cells are very sensitive to changes in their environment. So any manufacturing process changes could impact fertility, and you would need to consider the gloves as a source of fertility issues. Additional considerations should be placed on where to store and house the gloves. So air and dust can carry bacterial and viral contaminants. Therefore, they should not be left in the open air. Technicians should only put their hands into a bag of gloves if their hands are clean. While it's not possible to really use sterile gloves to collect semen, a general awareness of the possibilities for contamination should be remembered and not hinder the technicians from performing their job. This video was created using some less than desirable practices to help understand how contamination can occur and why the double glove technique is important. So what you will see in this barn is this boar being collected in a manner which could increase the possibilities of environmental contamination. So things like using a carpet on the dummy is a major bacteria haven, and it's challenging to clean a dummy with a carpet on it. The dummy you choose should always be easy to clean all surfaces, including the underside of the dummy. Once the technician has placed their 2 gloves on, they should try to avoid touching the boar and their clothing, which can both be sources of bacterial contamination. If they must do these things, then it should be done so with the outer glove still in place, which will be removed before they come in contact with the penis. Once the boar has mounted and is beginning to thrust on the dummy, the collection technician should check the hair surrounding the prepuce of the boar. If it's long, trim it periodically as it can harbor bacteria. Also, if the preputial opening is dirty or has excessive mucus, clean it with a single-use disposable wipe like a diaper wipe. Avoid using water as it tends to actually add bacteria to the region. Vigorously massage the prepuce of the boar to expel the fluid that can accumulate there. Let's take a quick look at the anatomy of the boar to understand why this process is necessary. So as you can see from this drawing, boars actually have a small sac right here inside their prepuce that can collect fluid and sometimes urine. This is the reason that vigorous massage on the prepuce prior to semen collection is important to clean out all of that fluid. After this process is complete, this is when the technician will remove their outer glove and only have their clean glove for collecting semen. Once this step is complete, the technician should remove the outer glove that has been used to clean the preputial fluid. This will allow the technician to use a clean, gloved hand to directly contact the penis. Hold the penis perpendicular to the bore when it is extended. This will help if there is any remaining preputial fluid in the prepuce. It could run down the length of the penis and end up in the collection device. If the penis is perpendicular to the boar's body, then the fluid will not enter the collection mug. Let's take a closer look at the grip of the gloved hand with the penis. Here I am using an AI catheter to mimic the boar's penis. In an ideal situation, the tip of the penis would extend slightly beyond the collection technician's gloved hand to avoid semen from coming in contact with the glove itself. This is seen in the picture here on the right. However, in practice, sometimes this cannot be avoided. But let's remember that the pre-sperm fraction and the gel fraction can serve as sources of bacterial contamination to the semen sample. If the tip of the penis is resting inside the palm of the collection technician's hand, like the picture on the left, then the sperm-rich portion of the ejaculate would pass over the same surface as the bacterial-contaminated pre-sperm fluid did. As the boar begins to ejaculate, ensure that that pre-sperm fraction is not directed into the collection device. The sperm-rich fraction and all of the ejaculated fluids following it should be collected in the collection device. This will include the gel fraction as well, which typically passes out during the collection and after. Once the boar has completed the ejaculation, the gel fraction and filter should be quickly disposed of while the technician is still in the barn. The semen sample should be sealed and placed into the warming cabinet until processed by the lab. So how do you know if your semen sample is contaminated? One sign is agglutination or clumping. Bacteria actually tend to damage the head of the sperm cells, which makes them sticky, and then they tend to clump together, like in this picture here. Another sign is if the semen sample has poor or no motility. So this is an image from a CASA system where the sperm cells were not moving. And if you actually look in the background here in between the sperm cells, you can see little white dots, and that is bacteria in the semen sample. Another indicator is if the stored extended semen is dead after only 1 or 2 days in storage. So there are commercially available bacteriological tests that can be used as a screening tool for contamination. These tests are some form of an agar plate that will show colony growth if there's bacterial contamination. So let's do a quick review of the minimum contamination techniques for preparing and collecting semen. So don't forget, the first step is to trim hair around the preputial opening to make sure that that's a clean area. Use the double glove technique when collecting semen, and discard the outer glove after you've done some manual stimulation to prepare the bore. Be sure you use disposable gloves and do any kind of hand disinfectant in between collections, or wash hands in between collections. If you need to clean the preputial area, use a disposable wipe. Do not use some sort of a towel that you use from bore to bore to bore during the day. Again, be sure you manually evacuate those preputial fluids prior to semen collection. Hold the penis perpendicular to the bore during the collection process. Divert that first pre-sperm and gel fractions away from the collection cup, and dispose of the filter prior to entering the processing lab.
This presentation was a production of the Animal Science Department at Purdue University.